2.5 for clean. Next it is in the center of the racetrack. Seattle Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem is pulling away. He's got another gear. Yeah, the sweat snake coming the Derby. Wheel away takes command. Lionheart is all heart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here's the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle's low of 1976.
The Kentucky Oaks is tomorrow. The Kentucky Derby just 2 days away. It's Thurby under the Twin Spires of Churchill Downs. And nice morning here. Temperature in the 60s and the main track is rated as fast. We begin Thursday of Derby week with some unfortunate news. Kentucky Derby morning line favorite Omaha Beach will be scratched from Saturday's race with an entrapped epiglottis, according to Hall of Famer Dick Mandela. It's an abnormality in the airway. Dick Mandela quoted as saying, "We can't fix it in a week, so we'll have a procedure done in a few days, and he'll probably be out of training for 3 weeks. We'll have to figure out a whole new game plan moving forward." Again, Omaha Beach, a likely favorite for the Derby, has unfortunately been scratched. Let's take a look at some other headlines for today's Thursday as the buzz continues to build on the backstretch, a packed backstretch here under the Twin Spires. Japanese Invader, Master Fencer, had a workout yesterday, 105 and change, with Kentucky Derby jockey Julian Leperoux aboard. He is the Japanese Invader for this year's renewal. Making their first appearances on the racetrack on Wednesday were Maximum Security, Vekoma, Bodie Express, who now draws into the field with the defection of Omaha Beach. The Tom Pletcher trained duo of a spinoff and Cutting Humor were on the racetrack for the first time on Wednesday as well. Great wagering menu on both Oaks Friday and Derby Saturday, highlighted by the brand new Oaks Derby Pick 6. 2 Grade 1 races on Friday, 4 Grade 1 races on Saturday, 1 fantastic Pick 6 wager. Joe Christopher alongside Brandon Staubel, and I was at dinner last night and my phone started blowing up. Brandon, you were the first one to text me. A very unfortunate news. Twitter obviously blew up as well, and just disappointed for the connections of Fox Hill Farm, Dick Mandela, Mike Smith, Omaha Beach is out. Very disappointing news.
Yeah, you know, Mike Smith, Richard Mandela, veterans of the game, they understand these type of things happen. But after that big work over the track, you're the favorite, you draw a great post. It is very devastating, Joe, but it's the old saying, take care of the horse and the horse will take care of you. They're going to give Omaha Beach some time off, let him recover. He should come back, and maybe we'll see him down the road in the big summer races. Yeah,
they said about 3 weeks of training he's going to miss after the surgery. So, you know, Richard Mandela saying we just got to plot a new course if that means the summer jewels like the Haskell, the Travers. What's most important is the health of the horse.
Right.
And Dick Mandela on the top of that list of people who is going to do right by his animals. Brandon, so, you know, Omaha Beach is out. Revised morning line from Mike Battaglia. We're going to take a look at the field in a little bit. It changes the complexion of the race a little bit. It's still crazy wide open, maybe even that much more wide open. I believe Game Winner is now the morning line favorite, but still a crazy wide open, fantastic, fun betting race.
Yeah, it is. Omaha Beach was my top selection here. I'm going to have to adjust my picks as well because now if you looked at my selections the other day, I've got Game Winner kind of moves up to the number 1 spot, but at 9-2, taking a ton of money in there, you know, I think 2, 3, 4 on my list would kind of flip-flop. I could have moved them around a little bit. So there's going to be definitely a change in my top 5.
Weaving his way through that massive crowd to join Ed DeRosa on the set. Ed, the third member of our team, is Mike Ziegler, an executive here at Churchill Downs. And guys, the buzz is continuing to build out there.
It sure is, Joe. Good morning, Brandon. I'm alongside Mike Ziegler, Executive Director of Racing for Churchill Downs Incorporated. And Mike, packed house back here. A lot of buzz for Derby as always.
Yeah, it's my favorite time of year, just like everybody else is in Louisville, and here we all are backside watching horses do what they do best.
A lot of chatter, of course, horses on the track. Big news yesterday with Omaha Beach scratching, but in the industry, a lot of chatter about horse safety, and Churchill Downs has really taken the lead in the past week, especially with some initiatives, but really nothing new for this to be a focus.
No, I mean, safety of the human and equine athlete is paramount. We take nothing more seriously than that. We have made some announcements, but really nothing's new. Since I came here in 2015, really one of my focuses has been safety of the horse, safety of the rider.
Yeah, I've fielded some questions, radio hits, media, things like that this week, and they'll say, stuff going on, is safety more important now or things like that. And I do say, well, it's not more important, it's always important, but we understand people are asking, and here's what we're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, we're all about taking best practices from others, turning today's best practices into tomorrow's minimum standards throughout the industry. I think right now you can see that there's a heightened focus on it, but maybe the stuff that's going on at Santa Anita has been a catalyst, but nothing really out of the ordinary. We're just working a little bit more in the public's eye on what we're doing.
Another thing you're involved in with Churchill Downs is fostering relationships with international participants, and this year that has borne fruit as we do have a horse from Japan competing in the Derby.
We do, for the first time since Lonnie, but also the first time that Japan will be able to wager on the Kentucky Derby. So there's excitement in Japan for the Derby, and Master Fencer was just on the racetrack a few minutes ago, walking around. He's really taken to the place. He's comfortable on the racetrack, and I think we'll see some good things from Japan for the long term.
Yeah, obviously they have a lot of big races themselves, but do they get the Derby over there? Do they realize what this race means to the U.S. and what it could mean for them to send a winner over here?
I just spoke to one of the representatives from the JRA, and he looked at me and said, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this owner. He's thrilled to be here. I think they really do know what the Kentucky Derby is in Japan.
And you told me you don't have a pick yet. That's my job. But do you have anyone you're really rooting for, personal relationships, associations?
Well, my father-in-law bred one that didn't get in, right on the outside looking in. He bred Signalman, so I would have been rooting for him. But at this point in time, safe trip for everybody, and I'll be thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hope for an exciting week for all, and as you said, a safe one as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ed.
All right, thank you, Mike. Back to you, Joe and Brandon.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ed. And Brandon, so Japan gets to bet on the Kentucky Derby, but it's separate pool wagering. Do you think Master Fencer is going to be just a little bit of an underlay?
Yeah, just a little bit
Can we
there.
get some bets into Japan? We got any
You're going to have a lot of
connections?
people tuning in, which is great. I mean, I like to see that. And unfortunately, Signalman, like you talked about, couldn't get in, but Bodie Express does. Master Fencer's going to have be up against it a little bit, I would say. But you never know in the Derby.
Yeah, we're going to see more of Master Fencer as this show rolls on. But first, let's take a look at the updated forecast for Kentucky Derby Day. And, it's kind of fluid. It keeps changing. The closer we get to the day, the more the forecast is going to be meaningful. Right now, it looks like temperature close to 70 degrees. Chance of showers. If it does rain, the track is sloppy. Does that change the way you're going to approach your selections and betting the race?
It does, and Ed and I talked about this the other day a little bit. I think you just need to be prepared. You need to be prepared if you come to the track and it's a fast track, but then you see rains coming, you need to have those numbers, those extra picks ready to go.
All right, let's take a look at the updated field. Adjusted morning line, courtesy of Mike Battaglia, who did provide that after the scratch of Omaha Beach. 5-1 on Improbable, 9-2 Slate favorite game winner. Roadster also 5. Maximum Security Tacitus at 8-1. And again, Bodie Express draws into the race, post position number 20. Again, all these horses on the outside are going to move in one gate with Omaha Beach a scratch. So Code of Honor moves from 13 to 12, et cetera, et cetera. But on your program, Bodie Express will be number 21. Nothing changes. The program is already printed, Brandon.
Yeah, it's printed. Lots of work you put in and others as well. I know you're excited to have those picks in.
Oh, yeah.
I think it takes a little bit of speed out of the race, too. I expected Omaha Beach to be up front early, and I think the pace is going to be a tad bit slower than what it was going to be.
When I was a kid, I grew up watching Spectreman, Ultraman. This is the latest superhero from Japan. It's Master Fencer. He looks like one with that hood on, Brandon, and he got into motion yesterday. It was a published workout, 105 and change with Derby jockey Julian Leperoux aboard. And again, it's a really slow time. It's a really slow gallop out. He's up against it in the Kentucky Derby, but you don't want to do too much this close to the race anyways.
Yeah, and then, first look at really him getting to stretch his legs, full extension in there. You can see Julian maybe just going to ask him just a little bit down the lane. He looks like he's getting a decent push from behind. maybe just not the horse that has a ton of early speed. If you go back and watch his prep for this, he was near the back of that race, kind of grinded up late in there, and you can see Julian will kind of nudge him here, wants him to gallop out a little bit. Like to see maybe a bit of a stronger push on the gallop out. He looks like almost maybe just getting a tad bit tired in there. I would say that he looked like he was going faster on TV than what we saw in the official time.
Yeah, okay, I can subscribe to that. Yeah. 119 and change for this gallop out. Now, one of the horses we saw for the first time, I've been waiting for it, Maximum Security. He is my Kentucky Derby selection. And again, I've been talking about this, Brandon. You're either on one side of the fence or the other. And I just think he's going to be a little bit of an overlay based on his past performances because there are some holes to poke.
Yeah, it could be, but I think your price is going to be hurt a little bit now with Omaha Beach's defection from here. Horse that's going to be forwardly placed in there. You can see the ears up in the gallop. Maybe not the biggest horse in the world. I mean, he looks a little bigger when you watch that Florida Derby than he does on paper here or in the screen. So, he had an okay day yesterday. I mean, there's nothing to really knock.
And again, that was his first day on the track. So today's second day on the track. We could see even a little bit more energy, a little bit more of improvement. Always looking forward to seeing the horses the second day especially. War of Will, we've been taking a look at him for days now, and it's been the same old War of Will. It doesn't matter if it's in a gallop, in a workout. He is loaded with energy. No questions there.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't need to give this guy any more energy before the race in here. No more Red Bulls, no more 5-hour energies.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
he's been doing this really since the workout. He's been into the bit. Riders just kind of just hanging on in here, just trying not to let him do too much. You can see readjusting the grip in there, just trying to keep this guy on the ground. I mean, he, whether it was by design or not, I talked about it yesterday, the 3 straight bullets, including the one out of the gate. I mean, they've got this guy mentally cranked for this, and they really have to be because the rail draw, he's going to have to go. If I was Mark Casse, and he's obviously he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but almost kind of like we're sitting on a suicide mission. Don't come with us early or you're not going to last. I would just kind of maybe scare these other connections and say, look, we're going to go to the front. Don't come with us, because if you try to come with us, you're not going to last and have any punch late.
I agree with that 110%. And again, the gate break key, but he's got to get away from there as clean as possible and then rush up on the inside and try to make the lead into that first turn. Okay, this horse put in a disappointing effort in the Louisiana Derby, did not finish in the top 3. He won his previous 2 races. But when you come into the Derby and you didn't finish in the top 3, Brandon, it doesn't normally bode well. Not in the top 3 and still winning the Kentucky Derby, it's a very short list.
Yeah, it is, and especially those 2 most recent closing types, and War of Will going to have to do this without really a nice prep into this, possibly on the front end. So fitness is a little bit of a question in there for me, the ability to relax, but it's shown that you can do it.
It can be done. We'll see if War of Will can add his name to that list with a 2019 in that middle column. Let's take a look at a couple of the Todd Pletcher-trained horses that are going to be competing here at Churchill Downs for the Kentucky Derby. We're going to start with Spinoff. First look on the track here at Churchill since his arrival for him, and then we're going to take a look at Cutting Humor thereafter.
Yeah, I thought both Pletchers looked pretty well yesterday. A little bit of bounce. Talked about I like to see just a little bit of bounce in their step over the track. And here the track has been excellent pretty much since they brought the horses back from various winter destinations in here. The ears are up in there. He's just got a nice little hold, and Spinoff made a nice impression yesterday. Got to see him in the paddock as well. They were schooling yesterday, and there was something to knock.
Yeah, good energy first day on the track from Spinoff, and Cutting Humor is up next. A horse that really wasn't on my radar. I really like that recent workout, his final workout leading up to his arrival here at Churchill Downs in advance of the Derby. Really caught my eye, as you like to say, and he's a horse that was not on my radar that I'm definitely going to use on Saturday.
Yeah, and a runner coming out of the Sunland Derby in here, and he's got some speed. He's not need the lead. He's not a horse that's going to show big early speed, but he likes to be forwardly placed.
Todd Pletcher is no stranger to the Derby. He has run it 52 times, 52 different performers, and he's won it twice. He's going to talk about both of his Kentucky Derby starters for this year, starting with Cutting Humor.
Cutting Humor is very straightforward, been an easy horse to train. He's been very professional, and really since day one he's always been uncomplicated. We're happy. I think, being in the middle, he's in post, he should be the second last to load, so I think that's an edge that he doesn't have to stand in the gate a long time. Hopefully he gets away cleanly. I think he's a horse that wants to get into a good rhythm, very similar to what he did at Sunland, where he's just kind of got into a comfortable pace down the backside and in the clear and just kind of kept grinding away. You know, I actually don't mind the 19 post for him. I think it's similar to what he did in the Louisiana Derby. I think he was 10 of 11. You know, we got a good run to the first turn. He needs to get away cleanly, but I think it should allow him to get to the first turn, hopefully in a prominent position, stalking. He doesn't have a lot of experience with kickback, so I'm hoping that, now by this being his third race off the layoff and, some good quality breezes since his last start has him sitting on a peak race. And, I think like everyone else, we're hoping for a good, clean trip. And, but we feel like that the Louisiana Derby was an important race for him, not only from the standpoint of getting some points to get in here, but just from an educational experience as well.
Todd Pletcher has started as many as 5 horses in the Derby in his career, flying a little bit under the radar this year with Spinoff and Cutting Humor. Let's take a look at the fastest Kentucky Derby winners based on those Brisnet.com speed ratings. And Unbridled, 117. War Emblem, 113. Unbridled, a little bit more of an off-the-pace type. War Emblem, Brandon, the last horse to go gate to wire in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, 1990 that stood for. 117 is a big rating in there. Monarchos, Mind That Bird, even put up a good number in the slop in here. And it's a great list there, and it just shows you it takes a very high rating. We're looking for some of these to step up in here because only a couple have run over 100.
Speaking of stepping up, one horse that may or may not have to do that because he's been one of the most consistent horses on the Derby Trail is Game Winner. He might be good enough already. And Brandon, he's been coming out at different times. He hasn't been coming out necessarily during the designated time, coming out early. Yesterday it was 9 o'clock in the morning when he stretched his legs.
Yeah, he did this the day before as well. And, just trying to keep him. He's got exercise riders back there, horses. You want to kind of keep them separated a little bit in here, but made a good impression when he got here to the track. He looks good out there now, just trying to keep him happy. Ears are up in there. Like to see good flesh, but just keeping him happy at this point. I mean, he's a Grade 1 winner over track. He's a Breeders' Cup juvenile winner over this track, so we know he likes it. He had the big 7 furlong workout coming in. He should be fit in here, and looks primed and ready to go.
From Breeders' Cup juvenile winner and 2-year-old champion to a former claimer, Tax was entered for $30,000 in his debut. Raised up to $50,000 after a good performance in that first start, and was claimed out of that race by Danny Gargan, and now he's in the field for the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and heard Danny Gargan talk, and I think we're going to hear him later too, but he's very relaxed. I mean, you like to see a guy that grew up here and right by the track. He's very relaxed in here. He's just kind of taking his time, and he's enjoying the moment. And that's what you like to see, especially for guys that haven't been here before. So that those ears up here, and Tax has made a good impression since he arrived.
And as Danny Gargan will tell you, horses can fool you every single day.
I claimed him thinking he was going to be a route horse, grass route horse. But then the second time I worked him, he worked so good on the dirt, I decided to run him in the Remsen, and that's how we ended up here today. It was a big jump forward, and and he's kept his form and he keeps moving forward. So he wants to run long, so that's why we're here. I'm kind of like everybody's panicking about the inside. That's where I want to be. Yeah, I grew up at Churchill Downs. It might be the most speed-biased rail in horse racing. So faster I can get to it, and the longer I can stay on it, the better my chances are. So that's what I want to be on the rail. So hopefully Mark's horse comes out of there running. We tuck him behind him. I like to be sitting 4th or 5th, somewhere 6th, just on the rail, and get a clean trip and stay on it as long as we can.
Very interesting commentary there from Danny Gargan. I will say this, the year Always Dreaming ran and the track had some moisture in it. The rail was the place to be. There's no doubt about it. It was a significant inside bias that day, but I wouldn't say that Churchill Downs is the speed bias inside racetrack on a day-to-day basis. Track can change from day to day. All right, let's send it to Ed DeRosa. Updated Kentucky Derby top 5 picks. Had to make some changes. We all did, Ed, with the defection of Omaha Beach.
Others, certainly those who picked him on top. I had him 5th. So this doesn't change a lot for me wagering-wise. I'm still repping by my standards on top. And I do like Tax quite a bit. And I'm pleased to hear that Danny is not worried about being down inside. I agree with you, Joe. I don't think the rail is necessarily speed biased. I do think the rail here, maybe more than some tracks, is the place to be. And we've seen Calvin, Corey, many local jocks use that to their advantage. Here is my full top 5. Spinoff moves in to the 5th category. Improbable and Tacitus, the 2 favorites I like best to be in the mix. But by my standards, definitely the top pick, Louisiana Derby winner. Brandon mentioned some of these horses needing to step up to that triple-digit brisnet pace speed rating. By my standards, is not. He ran a 102 in the Louisiana Derby, and Tax is the only horse in the field to run triple-digit speed ratings 3 times in his career. So I feel like I have some of the fastest horses. I'm getting 20-1. I'm pretty excited to bet this race, guys.
We're all excited about the Kentucky Derby. Ed's top 5 selections. Brandon's wondering where our buttons are, Ed. Hopefully we can secure those before they all disappear in the next couple days. A very popular item that twinspires.com does. Lots of people on the backstretch. And again, welcome to everybody at Dawn at the Downs. A fantastic program here. Breakfast buffet. You get to stand out on the balcony, watch the horses train, listen to the analysis, and just socialize with people and really enjoy a big part of Kentucky Derby week. Dawn at the Downs, if you've got a question, you can get it to us. Please send it over. Also, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Kentucky Derby website. If you've got a question for us, we're going to try to take as many as we can during the course of the next 45 minutes or so here on the Churchill Downs Kentucky Derby Work Show. The Oaks Derby Pick 6 is a wager that we're really looking forward to. It's brand new this year, and what a great concept, Brandon. This is a wager that has 6 Grade 1 races, 2 of them on Friday, 4 of them on Saturday. So if you're alive after Friday, you've got to get through basically 4 more races on Saturday. But it's all Grade 1 races. Just a fantastic concept.
Yeah, and then caps off with a 20-horse Derby field.
There you go.
Know, I mean, so and it's $2 minimum wager. Your tickets can add up quickly, so it's good to maybe team up with somebody if you want to do that. But you're going to have to make some decisions in there. It's a fantastic thing to try out. I think in horse racing, we're always looking for something new to keep fans interested or get fans on board. And I think this is great.
Yeah, get some friends, pool your money, build a big ticket. It's only a 15% takeout. An absolutely fantastic wager, the Oaks Derby Pick 6. Okay, if you can't make it to the Derby this year, or even if you're coming, you should think about making plans for next year. And you could secure your spot just by visiting a website, entering a contest. Maybe you'll win. It is a win a trip to the Derby, 2020 Kentucky Derby. And for more information on how to enter, you can visit KentuckyDerbyParty.com. Lots of great stuff on there that will help you enjoy your Kentucky Derby and maybe help you enjoy it even more next year by winning a trip to the 2020 Derby. So win a trip, visit that website to enter. We'll be back with more here on the Kentucky Derby Work Show with lots of Kentucky Oaks talk, as the Oaks is now just 1 day away. The morning line favorite Bellafina in a full field of 14. Oaks talk, live training right after this.
With twinspires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today. With twinspires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today.
As the buzz and the crowd both continue to build on the backstretch as we get closer and closer to Oaks Friday and Derby Saturday, It's a great place to be. I always say I enjoy the race, but I enjoy the atmosphere on the backstretch just as much, if not more, in the days leading up to the run for the Roses. A little bit of a void this year with the passing of John Asher last year. John Asher was Churchill Downs. John Asher was the Kentucky Derby. We miss him. We feel his presence every day in various forms. Nobody loved the Kentucky Derby like John Asher, and I had the pleasure of having lunch with Dee Asher, his lovely wife, the other day, and Dee told me who John Asher's pick was for this year's Kentucky Derby. He was a big fan of trainer Belmont, also a big fan of Shug McGahee. He has a grandson named Little Shug. But Dee said, no doubt, John Asher's pick this year would be Tacitus. As a Belmont fan, watching the way this horse is trained as well, Dee had no doubt in her mind, and she wanted to pass it along to the public that John Asher's pick this year for the Derby is Tacitus.
And I like that pick. Just an impossible void to fill. I can just tell you real quickly, pretty new to the Simulcast Network, just a couple of years here, but John would come down in the paddock to me and the biggest thing was just welcoming me into the kind of the family, so to say, giving me confidence to be on camera. Don't be afraid to make long shot selections in there. And it was fun, too. Anytime that we shared the same pick, he would always just kind of whisper in my ear, we're on the same pick here.
Yeah, I love it. John and I shared a love of music as well. I can go on for 3 shows worth of John Asher memories. Ed, tell us a little bit about your relationship with John.
Yeah, like many of us in this industry, we've all had different roles, and certainly our professional relationship with John may have changed based on what we were doing. Turf writer for me, then fellow employee, but the personal relationship never changed with John. He was always a smile on the bricks out front, or asking you about music, as you said, Joe, or just talking Derby, an impossible void to fill, and one that you still feel his presence around here. Truly a special man, and he will be missed, not only today, but for generations to come.
Well, thanks, Ed. John Asher missed, but certainly never forgotten. He will always be a staple here at Churchill Downs. Let's take a look at the forecast for the Kentucky Oaks Day card. That, of course, tomorrow, 40% chance of showers, temperature in the upper 70s again. You know, you don't know until you show up what the weather's going to be like. You can't control Mother Nature, but maybe we can dodge some of these raindrops tomorrow for Oaksdale. Let's take a look at the field. Bellafina, 2-1 morning line favorite. And like we've been talking about, she's going to be the favorite brand that it'll be interesting to see who the second choice is. When I ask somebody who they like for the Oaks, you get a lot of different answers.
Yeah, and Drew Well in here, man, you got to feel bad for Simon Callahan. I mean, with the shoulder injury, and so hopefully Bellafina can bring him some upbeat, positive vibes in here, and there she is on screen. Beautiful looking filly, $800,000 purchase as a 2-year-old, 6 for 8 lifetime. I think we all know the stats by now. They're expecting big things of her when they bought her. She's delivered, but this would be the biggest win of her life.
Yeah, she was 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year here at Churchill Downs, which was a little bit of a disappointment, but 3 for 3 this year is Kentucky Oaks favorite Bellafina. Live training session, 7:30 Eastern time. Kentucky Oaks, Kentucky Derby horses, as you see Roadster on the track right now. That will be coming up next here on the Kentucky Derby Work Show. Major heavy lifting's been done. Gallops and jogs still to come here on Thursday.
With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today.
Where the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. It's summer, the people are gay. The corn tops ripe and the fields are all in bloom, and the birds make music all the day.
Today, we share the best of Kentucky. It's our Woodford way.
With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today.
Bob Baffert will likely have the favorite in this year's Kentucky Derby now with the defection of Omaha Beach. Will it be Roadster, the horse on your screen, game winner, or maybe even Improbable? Here's another look at your Santa Anita Derby winner.
And what we've seen every time a horse comes out from the backside, you just want to get into a little bit of a jog. There's Improbable on your screen here, and he does look good. It looks pretty beefy, if I have to say. You know, he's got carrying a lot of flesh. He's like to see him maybe get into a little bit of a jog. I mean, at this point, I'm not going to nitpick too much, but you saw Roadster in a nice fluid jog in there. Improbable, maybe not as focused right now, but we've heard the exercise rider talk before. He's kind of considered out of the three, maybe the bad boy of the group in there. So still maturing mentally. You can see Roadster didn't have a pony with him. There's Jimmy Barnes, the assistant to Bob Baffert, on the pony, keeping close eye on Improbable. Don't want that bad boy to do too much before the race.
Yeah, I mean, physically, he just looks really good. He certainly is the epitome of what you'd like to see in a racehorse. But again, and you talk about this, Brandon, and you see it in the workouts, you see it in the gallops, you see it, back at the barn. That mental side has to be equal to or better than the physical side, because that's what can make the difference on Kentucky Derby Day with all of these people here at Churchill Downs and an atmosphere that these horses will never see again in their entire lives. There's Roadster breaking off into, a little bit more of a jog, maybe do a little bit more of a gallop as he moves forward here.
Yeah, just grab the bit a little bit. We always talk about the rider just keeping the hands low. You can see he's got them nice and low, just trying to get the horse to relax a little bit. I would consider this, Joe, just a warm-up, just like a human would get on the treadmill before a workout and just, do a leisurely walk into the to the exercise itself in there.
Long Range Toddy is one of those horses that could be a long shot that could make an impact. Didn't run well at all in the Arkansas Derby last out over a sloppy racetrack, but was really, really good. Showed a tremendous turn of foot in the Rebel in the start prior. And one of those horses where I wouldn't be shocked to see him run big on Saturday if the track is fast. If the track is sloppy, I mean, maybe you could say, hey, he didn't like it at Oaklawn. Could be a toss-out for a lot of people.
Yeah, he's a long shot I'm interested in, but like you said, Joe, and like we mentioned earlier, if it is fast to start the day and then sloppy later, you do have to adjust. Now, it appears Long Range Toddy possibly heading over to the starting gate. They're headed in that direction, maybe do some schooling. Steve Asmussen, a guy, believes in schooling the horses, and it shows in the performances in the afternoon.
Another guy that believes in schooling the horses is Hall of Famer, or excuse me, Todd Pletcher will be a Hall of Famer, and there's no doubt about that. He's under the radar this year, Brandon, completely, totally. This is a guy who started as many as 5 horses in the Derby before. He's had horses that were favored in the Derby or some of the favorites. But this year, spin off lightly, raced. Then you've got Cutting Humor coming in out of a win at Sunland. These are 2 horses that are completely coming into this race not quite in focus for a lot of people.
Yeah, they are. And talk about the locks on these horses. When they were doing the previews earlier, I mean, Vidal Sassoon could get a sponsorship with the way that
nice.
These horses, I mean, they just have some flowing manes, lots of hair in there. You can see the attention to detail, too, with the appearance of these horses. Todd Pletcher, a disciple of Wayne Lucas, that believe in the fine-tuning, just the little things in there. I mean, great appearance from both. And you can see that they're jogging out well, which is what I want to see in there. We saw Improbable earlier. Maybe not the most fluid jog onto the track. Like I said, I don't want to knock too many things in here, but nice little jog from both of these, just kind of coming out, and then they'll get into their gallops.
Todd Pletcher has 2, and Bill Mott has 2. We mentioned Tacitus earlier. Now we have Country House. No question what his strategy is going to be, Brandon. He's going to be out the back and pass as many horses as he can in the stretch.
Yeah, and, still maturing as well in there. You can see he's got the lead pony with him, and he's not going to let him get too far away in there. Maybe a bit of a bad boy himself. Actually, they're going to head into the paddock to our left there. They're going to head into the paddock, do some schooling. Talked about on social media last week, I had a question about schooling, at the gate or the paddock. It's normal for any horse from a 2-year-old all the way to the Kentucky Derby and Oaks horses.
Jaywalk showing some good energy on the racetrack this morning. Obviously, the 2-year-old champion. She won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies here, and she did so emphatically coming into this year. She was the horse to beat going into the Oaks, and I'm talking months ago, but she hasn't proven that on the racetrack in the couple of races she's had this year.
Yeah, she needs to step up. I mean, we're worried. I'm a bit concerned that maybe she peaked too early in her career. I remember being in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies paddock that day, and I mean, she was just outstanding. I mean, huge, carrying great flesh in there. Sometimes they don't make that transition from 2 to 3, so we need to see her step up in there. She's got speed. She needs to be forwardly placed in there, but she is third start off of the layoff, Joe.
We saw some casual jogs from a lot of the other Kentucky Derby horses. Que Parfait doing a little bit more this morning.
Yeah, pretty impressive to go over to Dubai, win the race over there, and then come back here and still show good energy. We saw Gray Magician yesterday who did the same thing. He came in second. Yeah, he was pretty washed out yesterday. This guy breezed the other day, 102. I was up. Brendan Walsh was up next to me. He kind of told him to shut it down after they hit the quarter pole, basically. Just trying to keep his energy nice and where it's at, and you don't want to use up too much of it before the race. He's kind of an outsider looking in, but I do like the fact he put the blinkers on and improved a little bit. I could see him maybe crashing the Super.
Yeah. How much of that improvement was the blinkers? I'm sure a significant part of it was, but how much of it was the competition? Obviously rallied from a little bit off the pace, showed a lot of resiliency in splitting horses and everything that you want to see out of a victory, but how does that translate to coming back here to the United States and running against the American competition that he had trouble with all winter long at the fairgrounds, where he wasn't a factor in the LeCompte or the Risen Star? Que Parfait for first-time Kentucky Derby trainer Brendan Walsh.
Yeah, and has made a good appearance, Joe. I mean, there wasn't anything that I've seen in my time here and on TV, and so actually he just got done with his gallop, so I believe that might be Brendan up on the pony, and they're going to take him over to the gate and do some gate schooling here. And then we've got another Todd Pletcher, one of the Todd Pletchers in here, possibly. I think that might be Cutting Humor. Coming down the lane in here, tugging the rider a little bit, and he's got a nice hold. I mean, both of the Pletchers have come from Florida. They've carried themselves well. You can see that nice bounce he's got. The ears are up in there, and just happy. I mean, that's the biggest thing, Joe, right now. You want to just keep these horses happy, and it's kind of hard to see the saddle towel there, but definitely a Todd Pletcher trainee, and ears are pricked. You love to see that.
Trying to get a look. Got a 50-50 chance of being right here.
I think I'm wrong.
Spin-off?
Yeah, spin-off.
So that's spin-off, and they look similar. So, yeah, and they both look good from what we've seen the last couple of days. There's no doubt about it. They're flying under the radar. Tall task for spin-off with that 19 post and the relative inexperience compared to the rest of the field. There's Bellafina. There's your Oaks favorite, and she's getting a little bit of a leg stretcher on the track right now.
Yeah, you can see her kind of toss the head a little bit, want to do a little more, which is fine. You'd like to see her, from what I hear and what I've seen, not the most fluid mover in the mornings. Just remember that these horses, it's all about the afternoon. The training is important, but everybody moves in different ways. You know, we talk about Vekoma with the paddling action up front. A horse can not be not the smoothest jogger or galloper in the world, but they show up in the afternoon. That's fine with me. I'll take those horses all day.
No doubt. And there's Bellafina again, 2-1 in the morning line. You know, there's a lot of money bet at a race like the Kentucky Oaks. It'll be interesting to see how the money is spread over several other contenders. Bellafina, the most logical winner. But when you talk to just about everybody that does public selections, for the most part, most people that we know, including ourselves, I think, are going to try to beat her tomorrow.
We are, and she gets a lot of trips where she's kind of in the clear, and, you know, you would expect a top-class filly to be able to sit behind horses and take dirt. But if she doesn't break well, I wouldn't say has blazing speed. Obviously, she's not going to be able to hang early on with Motion to Motion and Serengeti Empress amongst the two up front, but she's going to have to probably sit in behind horses, take a little dirt. How's she going to handle that? You know, if you get 2-1 or you get even money up on the board, is that something you want to take to figure that out?
Right, exactly. Risk versus reward. A lot of people are on this guy, win-win-win, as a wise guy horse. He's looked good here at Churchill. He had that simulated race the other day, or at least he thought it was a race, as he kept coming after the Bill Mott duo late in the stretch there. Julian Pimentel aboard for Michael Trombetta, and a horse that's sneaky good, Brandon. I thought the Tampa Bay Derby was better than it looks. That was his first two-turn try. Even better in the follow-up start in the Bluegrass Stakes, where he had trouble. closed over a speed bias racetrack to get up for second behind Vekoma. This is a horse that is going to be running late in this race, and he's kind of relentless in the stretch.
Yeah, I was just going to mention he's kind of the horse you want to definitely play around with in your tries and supers in there, because we saw in the last race at Keeneland that even though he had some trouble, he still came, and like you said, he just loves to compete. And in that workout the other day, I thought it was a nice drill. Country House, Tacitus on the inside, and he was asked a little bit, but he finished up, went past them, engaged on the gallop out. Tenacity is a word that comes to mind in there. Just keeps it, like you said, relentless. Just a horse that keeps coming at you, and those are the ones I want at the end when maybe everybody else is quitting. This horse is coming late to pick up the pieces at maybe 25, 20 to 1, something like that.
Yeah, no doubt. There was a question mark as to whether or not he would be a two-turn horse. Doesn't have the most blue-blooded pedigree in the world. He broke the track record in the Pasco Stakes at Tampa. That was a one-turn race. But then he stretched out, and he stretched out successfully, I think exceeding a lot of expectations of some of the experts. But he's proven it on the racetrack. He has excuses. He's moving forward, and he's going to be finishing. Again, the trip is paramount for all of these horses. We could say that from 1 to 20 all the way through, whether you're a long shot or a favorite, you got to get a trip in order to make an impact.
Correct, and these are the horses, talk about you just, if you had somebody to go into battle with, this is a horse I want to have here. I mean, just like you said, you can see in his gallops here, he's looking good in the gallop. Love to see horses that, yes, they did have a good breeze. He worked 47 and change the other day. He was 5 wide, I'll call it out on the track when he did it. He re-engaged in the gallop out. He did a lot in that work. The time usually is not indicative of how the work went. Sometimes, there's gallop outs. He did much more than the 47 indicates, so it's good to see him come back to the track and show this kind of energy.
Right, totally agree. Curious, and I'm guessing he probably gets high scores on Kerry Thomas, Pete Denk on the herd dynamics, because he certainly looks like a horse that isn't afraid of any of the other individuals on the track as far as competition goes.
Right, exactly here. And then you'll see a little cameo from Tacitus here, who has caught the eye all week, all last week. This guy's just thriving right now. Love to see the way he bounces over this surface in here. And don't forget, even though Dale Roman's the all-time leading trainer at Churchill Downs, there was a guy named Bill Mott who held that record before him. So he knows how to win a big race here. Hasn't won the Derby yet, but he's got a runner in Tacitus. I just love the way he's coming into this race.
Yeah, Hofburg 7th last year, the best finish for Bill Mott in 8 tries in the Kentucky Derby. But I mean, again, if you rewind all these workout shows, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but he just kind of floats over the ground. He just does it so effortlessly. Does that mean he's good enough over 1.25 miles against this sort of competition? Well, that remains to be seen, and we're not going to know until they leave the starting gate and hit the finish line just a couple of days from now. But he couldn't be doing any better. He's made positive impressions every day, and you got to like the way Tacitus is coming into the race.
Yeah, lost the maiden 2.5 lengths. If you take that out, he's undefeated.
Yeah.
So learning experience.
And it's Bill Mott, so maiden first time starter.
Right, exactly. The thing I thought was interesting, Joe, with the scratch of Omaha Beach, had to go back and figure out, okay, I got to find some other horses to use. So I went back and watched the Wood last night probably 7 or 8 times.
Oh,
I mean, I just, couldn't go to sleep. So it's just like, I got to watch this race. And you can see him on the screen here, those ears flop. But, I mean, I just love the way this guy's coming in. He's the hind end, nice and fit. Really good extension second time around here. But this guy has more tactical speed than sometimes people have labeled him as a grinder. I don't think he's a grinder. I think they've just chosen to go back a little bit. In the debut, according to the Brisnet PPs, 96 and 100 early pace figures. Those are strong. And this guy showed that he can rate, but I think he's got a little more tactical speed than people give him credit for. And
I agree with you. I mean, if you think about it, think of the Wood Memorial. That was a mess on the first turn, right?
Right.
And he's in the chasing queue behind 2 runoffs, and he's able to put himself in that position. So that kind of speaks to what you're saying.
Right, and if you look into the first turn, too, I mean, the trouble's noted, but he had to check twice just going into the first turn, and then he was able to relax. He tried to go through a little hole in front of Tax, couldn't get there. I mean, he's just very tactical to me, and I just love the way he's coming in the race.
I know.
I mean, he looks great.
Revisit my picks. Can I has the program been printed yet?
Now, Omaha Beach, it was my top pick and not currently there, so maybe I'm just kind of like, everybody looks good.
Yeah, well, that's true. Here's Country House. Here's the other of the Bill Mott duo. And, we've talked about it, no question. He's going to be rallying from off the pace. He was second in the Risen Star, and then he came back and finished up third in the Arkansas Derby. In the Arkansas Derby, he was no match for the top two. Brandon, he basically passed tired horses in the race. The Risen Star was a little bit better. He was second behind War of Will that particular day. That was kind of the race where we said, okay, this horse belongs against graded stakes competition.
Yeah, he's definitely belongs up here. I think the post for him bothers me a little bit just because he's going to want to get over and save ground, and he's going to be coming from the back. From the 20 hole, he's basically going to have to let some people go, then cross over and try to save ground, so he's going to lose some momentum out of the gate. This horse, for me, is one that I may want to keep an eye on for the Belmont.
Maximum Security is going to be coming down the stretch here, and this is a horse with unconventional training methods used by Jason Service, whose brother John won the race. They're looking to become the first brother, I believe, to win the Kentucky Derby. What do you see in here?
Yeah, I mean, he's just trying to get him switched over to the right lead in there, and he just did. Ryder's just trying to keep him happy. Actually, he's flipping back over leads here. Another one too that, you know, sometimes he looks like he's looking around. He's got that head cocked. A lot of people out there, you know, in the mornings, these horses aren't used to having big crowds. I mean, this is their practice time. It's a little more quiet, not as much going on as there is right now, but we talk about the mind. I mean, you got to be able to have that mind to be able to go out there and take care of business. Nothing that I would knock really here. Another one similar to maybe like a Bellafina, that maybe not the most fluid jogger in the morning. He's been brought up to the race in a different style with Jason Service. We all know about the long gallops, 53 half miles.
Yeah.
But if you like this horse, don't let that get you off of him. That's just the style of this barn.
Right. I mean, Jason Service basically saying, yeah, well, we've got published workouts in 53 and change, but this horse is going a mile and a half, you know, with purpose every day. Here's Bodie Express. You know, the connections are happy, right? There was a defection. You're never happy when it's at the expense of another horse. He was on the outside looking in. He just shipped up here on Tuesday. First look at the racetrack yesterday. This is a maiden. We haven't had a maiden win the Kentucky Derby since the 30s. Only maybe 11, 12 of them have participated. But he was second behind Maximum Security, and if you look at his other past performances, outside of never winning a race, he belongs.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's run some good figures in there. You talked about the second at 71-1. I mean, he belongs in here. The post, maybe one that hurts him a little bit. He's got forward speed, but maybe not the speed of the speed. So they're going to have to make a decision, I think, early on. Either we're going to be very aggressive out of the gate, we're going to try to secure a spot, or we're just going to break and then maybe just try to tuck over where we're at and save ground.
I'm telling you, the Kentucky Derby is the best race for so many reasons. But when you talk about anticipation from that gate break into that first turn, and the rest of the race is great, don't get me wrong, because you're not going to find out the winner until the finish line. But that gate break into the first turn, you kind of know if you got a shot or not.
Right, and then the loading process, you talk about horses that are going to be in the gate for a long time in here. This is a horse, Vekoma, that I feel like every year there's that horse you just kind of have no idea what to do with. And it
I got a few of those this year. Yeah.
It scares you, but you don't want to leave him off. For me, that horse is Vekoma, and I'm not even though he's got the pad a little out front, you don't really see it in the gallops, but when he starts to get into stride, you'll see it a little more. But he just moves really well behind, and he's got such good early speed. Even though he's drawn in the 6th hole, he's going to be out there. He's a horse too that once they break, if nobody's out there and Vekoma's just there, I mean, I could totally see Vekoma on the front end.
Yeah, I could see that too. There's several different horses that I think we could see potentially on the front end. We both agree though that based on the post position, based on the way he's been training, based on what he's done in his races, that a War Will has to go. And if you ask me right now who's going to be the pace setter, who's going to be in front after the opening half mile, I think War Will would be not a prohibitive favorite, but would be the favorite.
I agree with that, and I think Tax right next door has some tactical speed. And this horse here, I just wanted to mention, looks great behind Joe. I mean, just carrying a lot of fitness in there, feeling good in here, and I like what I'm seeing from Vekoma in here, feeling good. Just real quick on the pace as well, a guy, Javier Castellano, aboard Vekoma, he's been known to push a horse out of the gate and get him to the front end.
Yeah, good point. Now, we've had a lot of legendary Kentucky Derby winners. They all have a story. They all have their unique story. You know, if the paddler Vekoma wins the Kentucky Derby, that would just add to that lineage of legends and different storylines and something to talk about moving forward. A lot can happen between now and then, obviously, but this is a unique horse based on the way he travels.
Yeah, he travels uniquely up front, but like I said, he moves well behind. I did want to mention, Joe, his mom, Mona de Mama, I cashed a big bet on her here at this track.
Really?
And I believe it was on Derby Day. I think she ran in the Humana Distaff, if I'm correct, on a sloppy track by Candy Ride. So you've got that going for you. Got the Candy Ride. If it comes up sloppy, Vekoma's going to jump to the top of my tickets.
I mean, if you're a paddler, you should be able to handle it off track, right? I mean, it just kind of sort of makes
Very
sense.
nice.
It's
Very nice.
funny how we remember those things, though. I mean, there's so many great things about horse racing, and obviously we like to invest in the races. Some people like to call it gambling. I like to call it investing because you are wagering based on an opinion, not just pulling, you know, a slot machine handle or a roll of a dice or whatever. There is an opinion that goes into this, and there is a strategy that goes into this. But just the memories that you have from past derbies, from, you know, horses that you've owned, from horses that you have intimate involvement with, et cetera, but we just always remember these things, and we always remember every derby as well. The connections of Bodie Express will certainly remember it. It'll be interesting to see what happens out of the Derby with this horse. How many times do they run in stake races before they just say, probably a good idea if we break our maiden and then move forward from there?
Yeah, I believe it was the Trojan Nation is at the last maiden to run in the Derby.
Right.
Little neck sweat there, not a huge deal. We saw Gray Magician completely decked out in neck sweat, but looks like not the biggest colt in the world, but you get good effort in there. Light on experience, is a maiden, so probably going to be in that 50, 60 to 1 range with maybe Master Fencer as well.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so we've been talking about the action for days, weeks, months. The 20 horses are now set. The man that is in charge of calling all of that action and letting you know what's happening, where your horses are, and how the horses are going to finish is the man that's standing by with Ed DeRosa right now, the voice of Churchill Downs, Travis Stone.
That's right, voice of the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks, Ed DeRosa alongside Travis Stone. And Travis, watching all the horses on the track during the workouts, probably glad you don't have to call them all over the track, at least they're in your binocular frame in the race.
That and getting up this early every day would kill me.
It is an early wake-up call, so we appreciate you being here. This is your 5th Kentucky Derby. What have you learned through the years about preparing and calling this race?
I think it's a great question. I would say it's more about routine and just finding a routine for the week, trying to get to bed early and find, the right time to even things like when you're going to eat lunch on Derby Day and Oaks Day, just try and find a routine that gets you to the point where you're calm and sort of focused and you can think about the right things, which is calling the race. That would probably be the biggest lesson I've learned so far. And then the other thing is, it's such a wild and helter-skelter race. There's so much going on. Each year you do it, you just pick up on a couple of more things here or there that allow you to, maybe learn about and think about for next year. But it's an ongoing process.
Obviously frenzied, as you said, but at the same time, you have what we like to say, the greatest view in all of sports. Tell us about that vantage point up there.
Yeah, it's funny. I brought some people to the booth yesterday during the races, and anybody that comes up to the booth, it's way up there. It's literally the 6th floor. You can see everything. It's an awesome experience. When you look out on Derby Day, there's 170,000 people out there, and it's a really proudful moment when you can be a part of something as cool as the Derby and to see everybody enjoying it as well.
No question. We had a big announcement yesterday with the scratch of Omaha Beach. Have you completely eradicated red and white checkers from your brain?
That was unfortunate. I actually thought he was the horse to beat, as did everybody, I think. But, he's out, and we're going to have to make sure we have Bodie Express in mind as the week wears on, and we'll see what happens now. I still think the pace is going to be fast, anticipating a pretty fast couple of opening fractions, and some closers are going to make some noise late. So I don't think the complexion of the race has changed much. I just think the horse to beat is obviously no longer in there.
Well, this is your 5th, and of course, you never forget your 1st, and we have footage of you calling your 1st Kentucky Derby. This is the 2015 Derby here at Churchill Downs with Travis Stone on the mic.
And these three are off the turn together. Dortmund cut the corner. American Pharoah went wide. And Firing Line is firing between those two. Heading to the final furlong of the Kentucky Derby. American Pharoah on the outside. Firing Line hanging tough from the back of the pack. It's Frost and Dortmund down toward the rail. 16th to go. And American Pharoah and Firing Line. And it's American Pharoah pulling away late. American Pharoah rules the Derby. Firing Line, Dortmund, and Frosted were second, third, and fourth.
Oh my God, that was so much fun.
A lot of excitement, of course, for anyone involved in the Derby. Obviously, from what we saw there, for you as well. Was it a thought that you knew you nailed it, or you were just thrilled to live out the dream of calling the Derby?
I was glad it was over. I'd never been to the Derby, so that was my first Derby in person to see. And then, of course, calling it was just a wild experience, and all the build-up and the emotions literally comes out in 2 minutes. It was awesome.
The crescendo with Pharoah ruling the Derby, a great one. How many of those do you prepare for the field?
This year I have about 6 or 7. I have an 8th one in mind for one of the horses. You can overdo it a little bit here or there, and plus the way the race shakes out, you don't want to say something that's not appropriate for how the finish comes. So I've got some things in mind, but it's all about pulling them out when the moment strikes, and hopefully that happens.
Obviously about the horse, but we see Bob Baffert. This would be his record tying 6th. Anything in mind if he got that done?
I'm thinking about it. I do have some Baffert lines to possibly toss in should his horse be, 1, 2, or right next to each other. I did that in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year, a Bob Baffert duo. So I have some stuff like that in mind. If he wins, even though it would be his record-tying 6th win, I think it's still about the horse. And so I think he's the secondary story to the horse winning. So I don't know if I'd mention Baffert on the wire, but maybe right after. We'll see.
Very good. Well, Travis, hope it's a good 48 hours or 60, whatever we're down to. I know you'll be ready, and we're looking forward to hearing your call.
I appreciate it. Thanks much.
All right, Joe, Brandon, back to you.
Ed DeRosa, Travis Stone, and Travis is in his mid-30s. He's got a lot of derbies in front of him. And just hearing Travis and thinking about what he has to do, I've called about 12, 15 races in my life, a lot of them 6, 7 horse fields. And it is so nerve-wracking. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to, A, call a 20-horse race, and B, have it be the biggest race in the world. These race calls, they go down in history. There's so much that goes into it, and just thinking about it makes me nervous.
Yeah, how about to completely nail it, too? I mean, he did an awesome job in there. You can see the excitement. Love to see that emotion when somebody really loves what they do and they enjoy their craft in there, and it really shows through what Travis does.
Have you ever called a race, and if you were given the opportunity, I mean, obviously you've got to have a certain kind of mind to be able to do that, to train your mind to be able to have that sort of memorization. I just don't have it. I kind of, overthought it a little bit and kind of psyched myself out.
I've never done it, but I was just thinking just now it needs to be on the bucket list. It needs to get up there and give it a shot in there. I just kind of want to wear that whatever that piece is he wears across where the program sits on it and the binoculars. I mean, just to kind of get dressed up like that, I guess would be good.
It's about the fans. It's about the jockeys, the trainers. It's about the owners. I mean, the owners are the ones that purchased the horses, bred the horses, got the horses here, and Ed is standing by with the connections of Jaywalk. Ed?
I am. Thank you. Alongside John Service and Chuck Zachney with Jaywalk and the Kentucky Oaks. John, you've been on this stage before. You've gotten it done. You haven't come into a race quite like this, though. Disappointed by the losses, I'm sure, but I've heard good things about how she's been training.
No, she's very happy right now, which makes me very happy. She's coming into the race great, coming off a defeat in the Ashland, but kind of mirrors Catherine Sophia's race.
Right. And she does have a win over the track, of course, champion after that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Does that add to your confidence level?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the horse. I mean, if you have a good enough horse, they'll run on anything. And the way she's training right now, I'm expecting her to run her best race.
Chuck, I think this is one of my favorite names in the field. How did Jaywalk get her name?
I got to give John Green the credit for that. He came up with the name Jaywalk.
All right, well, it's a good one, and you've been at this stage before, different trainer, different race, but what's it like being a part of these types of races?
Actually, it's pretty exciting, but John and I were here in 2016 with Catherine Sophia. Yeah, so we know what this is all about. We did circle the Kentucky Oaks, at the beginning of the year. Here we are, 3 races in, and we're pretty optimistic going. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Well, it is going to be an exciting weekend. We just heard from Travis Stone. He called his first Derby in 2015. You won the Derby in 2004. What's it like? I mean, the Derby, it's very limited fraternity. What's it like to be a part of it?
It's tremendous. I mean, you're walking into history, and it'll be with you forever. You meet people that don't really know much about horse racing, and one of the first things they ask you, have you ever run a horse in the Derby? I say, yeah, 2004. Oh, really? Well, that's great. And then eventually they'll say, how'd you do? Oh, we won. What? What horse? And that stays with you forever. You're never going to lose that.
And Preakness, Belmont, no slouch either. The classic races, among the best in the world, obviously. Memories of Fleet Alex, what's that like for you?
Lots of good memories. Preakness is probably the best Preakness race ever, in my opinion. And then he won the Belmont by 7 lengths pretty impressively. So all good memories.
Well, yeah, that Preakness, he had trouble in the Derby. So then to overcome what he did in the Preakness and then win the Belmont, really special, and really special to have you guys here. Appreciate it. Wish you a lot of luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Looking forward to a fun day.
All right. Thank you both. Back to you, Joe and Brandon.
Well, thanks, Ed, and thanks to the connections of Jaywalk as well. Maybe we'll see her bounce back and revisit that form she showed in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, winning here under the Twin Spires Kentucky Oaks selections. Going against Bellafina, the vast majority of people that I've been talking to, and Brandon, the time has come to reveal your top 5 selections for this year's Kentucky Oaks. Let's do it.
I'm going to try to beat Bellafina in here, Joe. I just think that there's some up-and-coming fillies in here that I want to take a look at in here. Number 1 being Lady Apple. I thought her race last time was impressive. I know she saved all the ground. She got the pocket trip, but she still had to have the courage to go through that hole. She's an improving filly, 3 for 3 this year. I'm hoping she makes it 4 for 4 in the Kentucky Oaks. Number 2, Street Band. Larry Jones won this race 3 times. I can't really figure this filly out. She didn't run well 2 back, and then has that monster race last time in here. I'm afraid to leave her off the tickets, but Larry Jones gives me the confidence to put her at number 2. Number 3, Bellafina in here. We're going to take a slight shot against in here. Post is okay, but not ideal. She's going to have to save some ground and take a little dirt. Champagne, Anyone, trained extremely well in here. Another up-and-coming filly. And then Chocolate Kisses, we know she's going to take back in here, picking up the pieces late.
All right, I'll give you my top 5 Oaks horses, and this one could go either way. After looking at it for a long time and wanting to pick against Bellafina and having 5 or 6 horses that I thought, had a chance to win the race, I went with a horse who, if she brings her A game tomorrow, is, I think, going to be the horse to beat, and that's Serengeti Empress. I don't care about the other speed. I saw what she was capable of doing in the Rachel Alexander 2 starts back at the fairgrounds. If she does it again, she could win this race at a square price. Dunbar Road on the outside looking in. Scratch time is today. Right now, my number 4 would not be a factor if she doesn't get a scratch in the field. You mentioned Street Band. You mentioned Champagne Anyone. These are horses that have some upside in this year's Kentucky Oaks. But again, I'm going to be using 7 or 8 different horses in my wagering strategies. Ed, we've heard from Brandon. I give you my Oaks picks. It's time for yours.
Compelling race, especially from a wagering standpoint. Bellafina, certainly the most likely winner on paper. She's run the fastest races. She's run the most fastest races, but I'm going to try to beat her. I don't even have her listed in my top 5. I just think she'll be too short of a price. I'm taking a shot with Motion Emotion on the front end. She's fading her last 2 to second. This feels like the type of race where, Serengeti Empress doesn't show up off her last, maybe some of the other speed, she could get loose. I think she can stay the 9. Motion Emotion at 15 to 1, my pick to win the Oaks. And I'm really trusting that Oaklawn form, guys. Lady Apple, who beat Motion Emotion last out. Chocolate Kisses beat her 2 back. I'm thinking she can turn the tables gate to wire, but I'm a big believer in the fillies from Arkansas in this year's Oaks.
Well, thanks, Ed, and it would be great to see Tom Vanberg, the son of late legendary trainer Jack Vanberg, win a Kentucky Oaks, a fan favorite here under the Twin Spires. Speaking of fans, there's a few here. They're lining up to get their glimpse, get their pictures. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everybody's here to say, I was on the backstretch, I was on the front side to watch these Kentucky Derby and Oaks horses train. And it's been a marvelous last 10 days or so bringing you this Kentucky Derby workout show. I mean, it's been just a privilege, I guess is the best way to say it. A lot of hard hours put in by our television crew. I mean, I can't thank everybody enough, from Keith Wetzler to Michael Canali to Jay here on the set, to everyone just doing an awesome job. Richie Hayes putting everything together. There's so much that goes into this, and it's our privilege, it's our pleasure to bring it to you, and hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, it's a team effort, Joe, just like with any successful venture in here. Just want a big thank you to you and Ed and the whole guys at Twin Spires, just giving me the opportunity to kind of take my talents to the next stage in here and enjoy bringing the workout coverage to you. And I do feel like it's a vital piece of the Derby puzzle in here, and just want a big thank you to you and everybody else out there.
Yeah, Ed DeRosa, Scott Shapiro, James Scully, all doing a fantastic job as the talent both on the backstretch and here on the set as well. Brandon and I kind of giving you our final thoughts about this whole process and this workout show. But Ed, it's all about the horses. It's all about the horses, Ed DeRosa.
And I was reminded of that coming on set this morning. Obviously, terrible news, Omaha Beach scratching yesterday. But the first thing I saw up here was Code of Honor going to the track. And just a reminder that there are 20 horses that'll go in the gate on Saturday for the world's greatest horse race. You said it best. We're privileged to be a part of it. I was happy to be here. And one last shout out to my pick to win the Kentucky Derby by my standards. I'll be cheering for you, but the greatest part of this race, we'll all be cheering together for safe trips. And looking forward to seeing how it unfolds at 6:45 Eastern Saturday night.
All right, thanks, Ed. If By My Standards wins the Derby, I'm going to start promoting a dance-off between you and Chester Thomas. I would love to see you guys go to dance battle. A lot of great stuff going on. We've talked about so much over the course of the last 10 or 11 days. Wagering is a big part of, obviously, the Kentucky Derby, and the single six jackpot is one of the best wagers in racing, and it's actually going to carry through the entire meet this year. We've started it. There's a carryover pool already. 20-cent minimum wager, 15% takeout, and yes, it will be available on Oaks and Derby Day, and that pool is going to continue to grow. In order to hit it, you have to have the only perfect ticket, but even if you're not the only perfect ticket, it's going to pay massively. So again, 20-cent minimum wager, that is a big part of the attraction to this single six jackpot wager. Speaking of wagering, if you are a Twin Spire customer, and if you're not, you should be, we're going to give away some money. If you opt in and you hit the trifecta on Kentucky Derby Day, you got to bet on Saturday, you're going to share in additional money up to $50,000 that will be added to your account if you bet on Saturday and you hit the trifecta in the Kentucky Derby. But again, you have to opt in. It's so easy. If you're not a TwinSpires.com member, you should be. If you are, TwinSpires.com/offers and look for the $50,000 Kentucky Derby trifecta bonus. All I can do is take a deep breath. The workout shows have been completed, but the racing is continuing. It is Thurby at Churchill Downs. We have a first post of 12:45. Excellent program today. Early post on Kentucky Oaks Day and Kentucky Derby Day as well. Thank you so much for your viewership and participation, and enjoy Kentucky Derby weekend.
Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs.